what's up? It's your girl Kay, and we're back with another one. I know it's been a while since the last time I posted a video on here, but I was gone for a good reason. I know I said that last video, but I promise y'all, your girl got her wisdom teeth out. Child, getting your wisdom teeth out was no joke. They should really, I just want y'all to know, if you haven't got your wisdom teeth out before, don't do it. Especially if you're not in no pain or anything. If you're in pain, go get it out. But if you're not in no pain, wait. I promise y'all, it was not fun.
That's why you started feeling going up. Don't look down like that.
Hey, Mr. Jones.
That's why you started feeling sick, because you look down, it's going to make you dizzy. So don't look down, okay? You got to listen to me.
She had a wisdom tooth for today.
Step up.
She had a wisdom tooth. So she lunching.
Step up. Step up. Now look at mommy.
You what? Your eyes are green?
Can you listen to some music?
Yeah.
Eat first, okay?
Well, I can't eat nothing.
You can eat something. You can eat soup. You can eat scrambled eggs.
Ain't nobody want no damn eggs. You see what I'm talking about? That was not fun. It was funny to watch for other people, but I did not enjoy it at all. I had to go like 2 or 3 weeks without eating. It was a mess. It was a mess. But overall, your girl is back and better than ever. I can smile, no swelling, no none of that. So before we get into what we need to get into with this video, as you can see, we're going to be talking about privilege and the Great Divide. Now, when I say Great Divide, I'm not talking about something you learned in your history books back in the day. No, we're talking about the Great Divide, the gap, the miscommunication between the two genders. Why is there a divide between the two genders? We're going to get into that. It all centers around one word that we all use so heavily, just like the word toxic is thrown around. The word privilege. Now, I had to pull it up on my laptop, but Google defines privilege as a special right, advantage, or immunity granted or available only to a particular person or group. Privilege. That is the underlining issue between the two genders. One gender feels like the other has more privilege, and the other gender feels like, well, now y'all have more privilege, y'all have more room, y'all have more immunity. And it's not necessarily that one gender feels like you can't do it at all. It's just that you have the freedom to do it, versus when the other gender does it, there's more hurdles and complications, and it's just a whole bunch of stuff as to why one gender feels the other gender has privilege. So we use the word privilege just as heavily, in my opinion, as we use the word toxic. And I was crazy because I was talking to my mom before I actually made this video, and she said, y'all don't know nothing about privilege. So it made me think, and what we're going to dive into one section is understanding privilege. Like, what is privilege? How does it differ from our generation compared to previous generation? So we're going to get all into that. Now, for most people, when they hear the word privilege, they think about race. Especially in today's climate, when one throws around the word privilege, the first thing you think of is race. Now, there are many levels and different aspects as to how you can look at privilege. Some people look at privilege based on, your pockets, poverty versus the rich, gender, race, as I stated before. There's so many levels and so many ways that you can look at privilege and how people identify privilege. If we compare generations, compared to our generation, be able to have access to schools, to public schools that aren't segregated, compared to generations before who felt that everything that we have now is a privilege. So just really understanding the levels and how people look at privilege, understanding privilege, and now getting to one of the most debated Twitter topics ever. Well, not ever, but it was heavily talked about on Twitter. Understanding privilege between the two genders, female and male. Now, if you don't follow Kay's Konvos on Instagram, I highly suggest that you follow. Every once in a while, I throw up these topics up there, and I let my audience, you guys, tell me how you feel on certain topics. So last week, I put up 2 questions for everyone to answer via K's Konvos Instagram. I asked the ladies, what are some privileges that you think males have? And I asked the males the same question. And y'all went off, okay? Especially my ladies. Fellas, y'all gotta step it up because the ladies be eating y'all up in the responses, okay? But it really made me sit down and really think about how conscious we are of the privileges that one another have and how unconscious we are. So I think from both aspects, there are so many things that maybe one takes privilege of without even knowing it. So with that being said, let's just dive right into it.
On period.
When sitting down and really digesting this whole concept, I came up with 3 aspects that really explain privilege between the 2 genders. The first aspect is the who hurts more game. The second aspect is the disconnect and miscommunication. And the last aspect is empathetic listening versus dismissive listening. Now, as a female, I can only speak on the female perspective, right? Versus the responses that I did get from the males, which was helpful putting in a different perspective. But for my ladies, it seems like from our perspective, whenever we try to, establish the things that we feel that males have privilege of, or how we feel like we just have a little bit harder.
I said what I said.
Now, fellas, before you try to exit this video because you think I'm all for the ladies, hear me out for a second. We're not saying that you guys don't endure conflict, pain, that you don't experience life as well. We're just saying from a female perspective and things that happen to us, it's more often, it's frequent, and it's talked about more. The things that the males brought into perspective were things like saying, oh, how a female can say the B word, but we can't. We can be like, hey, but y'all can't. And depending on the type of female you're dealing with, she may or may think that's cool. I know for me, it's not going to happen over here, okay?
I don't like that.
But again, it's all about the type of female or male that you're dealing with. Some things might be cool for one female, might not be cool for the other. And the same goes for my fellas. Disconnect, miscommunication, empathetic listen versus dismissive listen can actually go under the same bucket. When you really think about it, fellas, ladies, how do you acknowledge, or how are you as a listener? Are you empathetic or are you dismissive? Do you sit and try to understand what the person is saying to you, or are you quick to defend yourself, your gender, or whatever else may be in the topic of discussion? The disconnect and the miscommunication comes from listening. If you're actually sitting there listening to your partner, your friend, your parent, instead of trying to block out everything they're saying because you're in defense mode and because you feel like you're attacked, actually sit there and try to understand that person. You might not agree on everything that's being said from one another, but at least you have a better understanding. Like, oh, I didn't think about it like that. And I promise y'all, that makes all the difference. A lot of the times when we're having conversations, debates, anything under the sun like that, we seek, and it's just human nature, you seek to be understood than to go into the situation to understand. And it's not your fault. It's just human nature. We always want to be understood before we want to understand the other person. So if you go into every situation seeking to understand than to be understood, you will be understood and you'll understand the other person as well. It's confusing. I know I said a lot, but I promise y'all, if you really seek to understand people instead of trying to push your own agenda to be understood, you'll reach a common ground most of the time. Sometimes you can't reach a common ground, and that's cool. But a lot of times it can be solved with just being an empathetic listener instead of a dismissive listener. Now, to get a better understanding of what I mean by privilege, we're going to play a short little game. I promise y'all it's so short. And if you're with someone, or even if you're watching by yourself, I just want you to sit and think and see if this can apply to you, if it applies to someone you know, if you just never thought about it that way. Just sit and think and see if you can apply this to yourself. So I'm going to do about 4 questions. First question is, are you worried or afraid when you have to take the trash out late at night? Question number 2, can you make a dark joke without it being a problem? Question number 3, are you nervous or do you automatically look at your phone when you walk past the opposite sex? And lastly, question number 4, do you overthink your outfit before you leave the house? If you answered no to all of these questions, honey, you have privilege. And it doesn't just go for males or females. Some of these questions, females be like, no, I'm not afraid to take out the trash. Why would I be afraid to take out the trash? And it might go the same for the males. So not all questions is just for the females, for the males, because some males might do get afraid to take the trash out at night. It might be for different reasons, or it might be for the same reason. But the whole purpose is to acknowledge and put in perspective how the opposite sex may deal with everyday life. And speaking of everyday life, that brings me to another thing: double standards.
No.
If you know me, you know I hate double standards. We don't do double standards over here, honey. That's not happening.
On period.
But unfortunately, that's the society we live in. Our whole world, whether you want to acknowledge it or not, is built off of double standards. And let me give you some examples. If you don't know, we live in a patriarchy society. What is a patriarchy society? And it shows in little things and small things. Take, for example, the rap industry, sports, and ding, 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 our government. Now I want to give you some examples of double standards. Some of these may seem cliche, and I know they don't apply to every male or every female, but these are just the ones that we heard about before that get repeated, and sometimes it does apply. Our first example is, if a female talks to more than one male at a time, she's deemed a hoe, a thought, green, or for everybody. We know this isn't true, but that's a double standard that a female deals with.
I don't like that.
Example number 2. If a male doesn't pay for the first date or for a date at all, he's automatically deemed broke.
Little harsh scratch.
Example number 3. If a female does something that a male doesn't deem classy, then she's not wifey material. Wifey material? I'm sorry, we gotta pause. I need y'all to throw that term away. Like, throw it away. I don't want to hear it anymore. Don't say it. What is wifey material? Really, sit and think about that. Someone who cooks, someone who cleans. What is this, the 1930s? I'm sorry, ladies and my fellas. Get rid of the word wifey material. It's outdated. We shouldn't use it. But I know y'all won't keep using it, so.
Next caller, next caller, next caller.
Moving on to our next example. It is deemed more acceptable for a female to be lesbian or bi than it is for a male. If a male says he's bisexual, he's automatically deemed gay. So overall, the whole point of this video is just to get you guys to understand that whether you know it or not, unconsciously or subconsciously, we live in a society that's built off the backs of double standards and privileges. Whether the privileges have to do with gender, race, socioeconomic status, or anything in between or above or around. It's inevitable. It's something that's hard to escape if we can escape it at all. But the one thing we can do to make sure we stay away from it as much as possible is just being empathetic listeners. In the end, it's all about how we go about it. And the way we go about it determines if we break the barriers of miscommunication that's between males and females. And if you really think about it, if just listening can fix some of those problems, then just imagine how different our world could probably be. And that's what we're here to do. Being the next generation, we learn from the mistakes of previous or past generations, and we build off of that, and we make sure that we don't follow in those footsteps, especially the ones that are negative. We evolve, we change, and we grow. And the way that we grow in this aspect is listening, trying to understand each other, being empathetic, and just really making sure that we understand one another. Now, I know breaking barriers of generational curses or generational just teachings is not something that we can fix overnight. But little by little, if you try and apply these things to your everyday life, it can make just a big or little difference. A difference is a difference. And that's what we do as the up and coming generation. We make a difference.
On period.
Well, that's all I have for this video of Kay's Convos. I hope you guys enjoyed this conversation. I hope you guys gain broad perspective. Hopefully you'll apply this into your everyday life. So with that being said, I hope you guys like this video. Please make sure you subscribe, comment, repost, all of that good stuff. And until the next video, you guys stay safe, wear your mask, okay? And see you in the next video.
Y'all come back now, you hear?